Good. Like a multitasking. I'm slow on the uptake sometimes, but I get there. Hello, good morning. It is Monday morning, October 3rd. It is 9 a.m. and I'm your holistic nutrition practitioner. My name is Lucas Simmons, and I'm going to see if I can follow along on the live here to see if anybody comments or has any questions along the way. So we're doing this in two spots. I'm bumping it out to Facebook. So if you're watching either as it's happening live or after the fact, if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below. If I see it, I'll be able to comment on it as we're going live. If I can't see it, then I'll get back to you afterwards and I'll send you an answer. Or if you're watching and have questions after this has happened live, then yeah, I'll get back to you. I get a notification eventually at some point when this happens. So welcome this morning to the orientation call. My name is Lucas Simmons, and I am your holistic nutrition practitioner. Glad to be coming to you from the land of Treaty 7 territory, the traditional lands of the people of the Piikani, Niitsitapi, and the Stoney Nakoda, and the Blackfoot, and many, many others who have called this beautiful land their home, and I'm glad to be here coming your way. In this orientation call, we do this at the start of every month, and it is meant as an orientation for those who are new to the Good Food Network, who want to know how it works, who want a little bit of a tour around the joint to see, kind of pick and choose. You know, it's like a buffet table. When you get to the buffet, right, you're going out with your family to the Chinese buffet, which is one of our favorite things to do in my family. And when we arrive at the buffet, we all go take a gander, and you sort of start to salivate and you think, what am I going to eat from this buffet today? And you start to choose what it is that you're going to be feasting on that day. And it's very much the same thing here with the Good Food Network. That's the idea anyway. I'm here to give you the buffet, and you're going to come and you're going to bring your plate and you're going to take from it what you want. Now, when you go to a buffet table, do you eat everything that's at the buffet table? No, because they'd have to roll you out. Sometimes I do attempt that. I'm not going to lie. I love a good buffet. I just love food in general, let's be honest. And when someone else is cooking it, oh God, it's just so nice. But this is the goal with the Good Food Network. You become your own caretaker. And part of that work is that I'm going to provide a whole lot, and you come and pick and choose what it is you want. What are those pieces that resonate with you? What are those components that you want to work on for yourself? So when you join the Good Food Network, the one thing I say is, listen, if you can give yourself a good hour a week, that's how you're going to make the most out of this network. If you have more than 1 hour a week, well, then you're going to get even more out of the network. But in order to make it worth your while, can commit to doing an hour a week. Pencil it in, make it part of your routine. Is it every Friday morning? Because that's the one day a week you don't have work, and that's where you tend to your stuff, house stuff, life stuff. That's when it happens. Could it be Sunday afternoon after all the dishes are done and the kids are tending to their homework and you're doing your homework? It's a self-directed program, really. And this is where you can commit to that. Or is it every Tuesday night? You commit to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays all the time. Whatever the case may be, I encourage you to make the most out of this network because there is a lot on offer. And I acknowledge that. But I wanted to make sure that it was a place for predominantly people who have been clients of mine, one-on-one clients. They know how I operate. They know how I work. They know that I like to give a lot. And then they know that they get to choose. So this is meant for the people with whom I've worked. It's also meant for the people who are not yet ready to do one-on-one work. There's way more hand-holding when we work one-on-one, by the way, but not everybody's ready for that piece, and they want to dip their toes first. Well, this is where you start. It's also a really great place to hang out if you are currently going to holistic nutrition school. There's a lot of concepts that we cover in tying things together and making it all make sense, looking at things on a holistic level. And, spoiler alert, you are a closed loop system. What happens in that corner of the body impacts that corner and this function and that function. It doesn't just happen by itself in the corner. You are a closed loop system. So I want to give you a tour of what to expect. First things first, what I'm really excited about is this month in Practice Better, which is where I host all of the network and do all of my work actually. They've actually rejigged it. There's an update and upgrade to the way that programs are delivered. And the Good Food Network is built as a program. So it's way easier to navigate. So if you were in September's Good Food Network and you're sticking around for October, then I encourage you to go check it out. They changed it. I think it was Friday morning. It's kind of cool. And I'll show you what some of the upgrades are in today's orientation. I'm also going to take you through what is that content that is unique to this month, how to know if this might be something that would interest you or be of benefit to you. So I encourage you to stick around, check things out. I'm doing this live on the fly. Last time I did this, I did not get the comments live as they came through on Facebook. So it's all good. I'm also going to post this to YouTube later. So if you're not able to stay for the whole session, but you still want to watch it later, you can catch it on my Facebook business page or head on over to my YouTube page. So I'm going to share my screen now. Share the screen. There we go. So first things first, for those who are going to be in the network, this is where you log in. You go to my website, lucasimmons.com, bottom left, log into Client Hub here. So you'll click on that. That will take you directly to this guy where you log in and you can see right away everything on your home page. Lots of different things here. What I want to highlight first is you've got upcoming sessions here. These are your Zoom calls for those who want to join live. And then you've got pending tasks that come. Every time you've got a task, you can check it out, open it up, and then mark completed when you've got it done. But let's take you through that Good Food Network. So here is the whole network. Just click on it and it takes you right to the network. And I love how it is now. The ability to make it make a little bit more sense for the user on the user end of things is amazing. So they've now built these modules and these sections. So I've reorganized a little bit and done a little bit more of the accounting and sort of bookkeeping pieces, if you will, like the sort of business stuff at the top. Then we've got it grouped as your live sessions, the pre-recorded content, think of it as a streaming service kind of thing. Then we've got the written content for the month. So we're going to start at the top. Start Here Kitten. For those who are new to the network, this is where you're going to want to go in. There is an orientation video on how to navigate through the hub, how to find all the moving pieces of the network, and then get oriented. This is the orientation call right now you're watching, so you've already found it. Good work. Scrolling down, this is where you get the replay for those who are in the network. Then the different parts of the modules and the whole network. So this gives you information on all that you can expect from the pre-recorded and the live stuff and the written content. So when you're in there, just go to Start Here Kitten, because that's where you need to start. Oh. Once you're done, you hit complete. What? I'm done. I completed. Mark complete. Thank you. Yeah. That makes it easy. I don't see any comments yet. Good. Back to my program. What I want to show you this month, this is the schedule and the checklist for October. So in order to reduce the overwhelm, I've done a couple of different pieces. Some will work for some. You may only need one of these. You may need both. You can just look at them or you can print if you want. You have the option for both. So here is your schedule for the entire month of October. Every Tuesday, we do a weekly office hours. Can I enlarge this a little bit? Every Tuesday, we do a weekly office hours. Today, right now, this is the orientation call. On the schedule, you actually only see the live stuff. You don't see the on-demand stuff. I'll show you how to find that. We're doing 2 sessions on Wednesdays this month. The second Wednesday of the month, we're going to be doing a class called Going Paleo. If you are not on the network, you can take that course for $30. For those who are in the network, you get to come for free. So it's a class where we're going to be talking about what does it look like to go paleo? Does everybody need to go paleo? I don't think so. Do you need to watch this class if you're not going to be strictly going paleo? Yeah, totally. Do I think going paleo is the answer to everything? God, no. Is it a solution for someone who needs to move the needle fast when there's inflammation? Yeah. Does it have to be every meal? No. I am the person who's going to invite as much wiggle room as we can to your life while taking those steps to feel better. So going paleo is a class that I think everybody could come. It's open to everyone, and it tells you the length of time here. The other Wednesday session, we do every month a histamine meetup. About 80% of my clientele are people who have histamine issues or mast cell activation. And it's a really convoluted, complicated world out there. Let's meet, let's fetch, let's connect, and let's resolve some of those issues that show up when there's a histamine piece to the picture. Every Thursday morning at 7 a.m., we do a food as medicine chat in the network. There is always a replay for all of the live sessions except that histamine meetup. There's a replay for everything. So if you're watching this, you're like, I can't join that live. I'm not joining the network. Well, tisk tisk, you still can. You could just watch the replay. That's all. They become available about an hour after we wrap up. So each Thursday this month, we're talking about stress and how food can be supportive. So food is medicine. The first one is going to be got stress. Now what? Then we'll get into your personal burden of stress and describe what that means. Week 3, we're going to be talking about that adrenal piece to the picture when stress is around and why the adrenals struggle so much. The last one, we're going to be talking about those best top 3 foods when stress is around. And by the end of the month, you'll be like, oh, it's not just stress of the job. LUCA means like all of the stressors. Outside stress, like the job, like the mortgage, like the cell phones are really expensive, like there's pesticides everywhere. The internal stress, which is like, oh, I can't digest well. Oh, I got chronic disease. Oh, something's not working well in my body. Yeah. To the emotional stress. And we're going to explore a little bit more what that means in just a minute, because I want to show you, I'm going to share with you one of the modules explicitly today, actually, on how to know if you have a high burden of stress. I post about it all the time, but sometimes we need to hear something 7 or 8 times before it starts to go, oh, that's me. So hang tight. We're going to get there in just a minute. So those are the live sessions for the month of October. Oh, look, you can print it as well. Good. Okay. I also build a checklist. So every month there's a new checklist and it outlines all of the different pieces for that month. And you can decide to leave it so you can check mark it, or you can go and just cross it out and say, I'm not even doing that piece this month. But it gives you all of the different components so that you can make your to-do list for yourself at the start of the month. And by the way, if you only join us halfway through the month, you still have access to all of this content for the rest of that month. And if you sign up in the middle of the month, you're in the network for a full month. So you're going to get to stay till the middle of next month. And you get to stay as long as you want. You can come and go as you please. So when you get, regardless if it's the first day of the month or the 19th day of the month, go in, print this up. This is the visual version, of course. Here we've got a printable if you wanted to print it up. So for those who need to print it up, go for it. So let's look at this. Check out this month's schedule. Print it if you need to. Our main topic is going to be stress. There's a whole module on that, which I will show you in a moment. You can watch the Real Food Reset video. We're doing the pantry overhaul. Apparently, I don't know how to print or how to type. Overhaul should only have one L. Sorry about the spelling mistakes. There are handouts and recipes in there. Once you've done that, you check that off. Do you want to watch the Vitality Inflammation class? You can print up the handouts. There are recipes in there as well. What? I know. There's a lot in this network. Next one. Do you want to watch the Scratch Cooking class? What are we doing this month? Salads. Oh, yeah. Then you print up the handouts, the recipes. There's a shopping list in there as well. And there's a class. You actually can take it whenever you want. It's an hour and a half long, pretty fun. Every Thursday, we're doing the live food as medicine sessions or classes. You can watch the replays in the module. There's 4 of them. You can join the live class this month, October 12th. We're doing Going Paleo. Or if you can't join us live, you can catch the replay. Have you printed up the recipes of the month? There's a brand new bunch of recipes every month. We'll go through that. Have you printed up the Eating with the Seasons handouts and recipes? That's for new people to the network. If you didn't do this in September, this changes up every 3 months. We have weekly office hours on Tuesdays at noon for 1 hour. Replays available. Histamine meetup at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, October 26th. There will be no replays for that one. That's the only one that doesn't have a replay because so many of the questions in there. Yeah, I want to make sure that everybody feels safe. Yeah. So there you go. So let's show you, let's go back to the modules. That's the checklist. I actually want to show you this one. The main topic this month is stress. So let's go into, this is just to show you what the modules look like. So stress, even just reading the word gets me on edge, yeah? So why do we need to address stress? Are you living in this current day and age? Do you see what's going on out there? Bombard, bombard, bombard. Oh, it's a little bit overwhelming. So here we are in 2022. And our work now becomes in surviving and thriving through these times. The pieces I present and I propose in this Good Food Network, especially over the course of the month of October, is there to reduce the stress in your life. This Good Food Network is not meant to add stress to your life. This Good Food Network is meant to simplify and give you tools in order to get through the stress. I would take away the stress if I could, but I don't know that that's how we're supposed to be humans. Being a human is stressful, totally. So there's a few fart jokes all over the network. I don't know if I would call them fart jokes, but there's funny jokes all the way through. My entire family is in this month. My husband is in a video. My daughter is in a video. Yeah, we have fun times. So we're going to get to know how nutrition can help us through when stress is high. So let's go through, because this is the main topic of the month, you're going to want to know, well, does this apply to me? So here are some questions for you. Who could benefit from really focusing on nutrition from that stress point of view? If you say yes to at least one of these, do you have a chronic health condition? Have you in the past had a chronic health condition? You know, things like cancer, things like strokes. Maybe you have had a bout of autoimmune and it is now under wraps and done and we're good and we've moved on. Do you have an autoimmune condition? Have you ever at any point in your life had any kind of autoimmune condition? They are now saying that IBS potentially is an autoimmune condition. Things like glaucoma are actually an autoimmune condition for which I am at very high risk. So there's a lot of autoimmune conditions. The biggest one is probably Hashimoto's. Lupus is another one people may be aware of. Graves is one that I've heard mentioned a few times from people I've had conversations with lately. But autoimmune, you will know it's an autoimmune condition. I hope they will tell you that it's an autoimmune condition. And if you're not sure, hit me up in the comments below. You can hit the comments below and I'll let you know if what you are diagnosed with is an autoimmune condition. Do you have lots of external stress in your life? Do you have a high stress lifestyle? So that would be the typical way we think of stress, is work really heavy? Are you looking after children who are neurodivergent or who have chronic health conditions? Are you looking after elders who have chronic health conditions? The sandwich generation, we call the 50-year-olds now. Great. Yep, I'm there. And that's okay. It's good. Do you have lots of that external stress in your life? Do you have any of those big diagnoses currently, or have you ever in the past? Cancer, heart disease or stroke, Alzheimer's or dementia? Does it even run in your family, I would say? Do you have thyroid stuff? Hypothyroid, Hashimoto's? Do you have mood stuff? Depression, anxiety? Or are you diagnosed with asthma or things like COPD? These are the top 10 in Canada, by the way. High blood pressure, arthritis, osteoporosis. These are just the top 10 most common chronic health diseases in Canada. And the stats are astounding, by the way. It's something like, is it 44% of our adult population? So anybody 18 and over in Canada, this is from 2019. 44% of our adults have at least one of just the top 10 chronic health conditions. Never mind, maybe more than one. And never mind chronic health conditions number 11 through to 75. They're not in that number of 44%. So almost half of our adult population has at least one of these chronic health conditions, and the numbers appear to be rising. I realize I'm adding to the stress here and I'm adding to the fear, but this is just to drive home the point that this is common. Is it normal? I don't think so. Is there stuff you can do? Oh God, yeah. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it time to do things? Maybe, if you've got space in your life. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Nutrition can be such a gentle helper, and shifting how you eat has the potential of impacting everybody in your house. So if one person in the household starts to bring in some of these concepts that I am proposing and that others in the wellness industry are proposing, and we all have different points of view, you got to go with the person who resonates most with you. This is where we're going to have that power of the people piece. Yeah, through nutrition. It's awesome. Do you struggle with histamine or mast cell mediated issues? Histamine intolerance, any kind of mast cell mediated stuff. That is not necessarily obvious to many people. To me, it's like, because I talk about it all the time, but you can check to see histaminehaven.com. That is my other work. There's lots of stuff that we cover through there. Do you have adrenal fatigue? Yeah. Is your liver having a hard time? I'm going to add to that. Do you have metabolic stuff going on? Do you have thyroid issues, blood sugar balancing? Are your hormones off? Is there fertility stuff? Is your period hard? Do you have what they call estrogen dominance? Are you constipated? Have you been constipated for decades? Do you have your gallbladder still? If they took out your gallbladder, you've had inflammation for a long time. And taking out the gallbladder doesn't get rid of the inflammation. It gets rid of the end result of inflammation and what happens when there's been inflammation for a long time. And inflammation shows up differently from one person to the next. It's always a good time to start shifting some of that nutrition piece for yourself, because that's when, nutrition is just such a nice, slow needle mover that it signals safety to the body. And the way that we eat and the foods we choose, the times we eat, the frequency of our meals, the less frequent in some people, the more frequent in other people. It'll depend on what's going on in your body. There's so many ways that nutrition can signal safety to the body. And when we signal safety to the body, you're reducing that burden of stress. And now you're reducing what's driving the chronic diseases. Like when they tell you, oh, well, your weight makes you a high risk for cancer recurrence. Okay, so then you think, oh, so my weight means that I'm at a higher risk of having the cancer come back. After you've done your round and after they say clean bill of health, you're doing great. Like, I hope that's where you go, right? I hope that's where you get to go. Then they say, oh, well, your weight is a end result. Or they sort of make, I don't know. To me, it seems like it's your fault, which it is not your fault. P.S. That's a discussion for another day. So, okay. So now you think, okay, well, now I got to lose weight. Okay. Do you know weight is an end result of low-grade chronic inflammation? When you have weight issues, when you develop some of those chronic health conditions like Hashimoto's or lupus or scleroderma or lichen sclerosis is another one, ankylosing spondylitis. I was talking to somebody this week about psoriatic arthritis, multiple sclerosis. Like these are chronic health conditions that have something common at the root. All of these things, the one common piece that's driving the weight gain and the other chronic health conditions is inflammation. Inflammation is a massive burden of stress to the human. Yeah, it's the internal burden of stress. So like, oh, cracker, poo-poo. Yeah. So when they tell you you need to lose weight in order to reduce your risk of developing cancer again, what they mean is you actually need to reduce stress. You need to reduce inflammation in the body. And when you reduce inflammation in the body, now you're moving towards reducing what's driving all of the things. So I digress. Okay. These are all indicators you have a high amount of stress in your body. So chronic disease in the body or an autoimmune condition or metabolic health that isn't working well, that is synonymous with stress. So I want to go through some of these things. because I think this is going to tell you whether or not the Good Food Network will be a good place for you to park a little bit of time this month to see if this might be a fit for you. So I think of that burden of stress in one of three ways. I've been sort of name checking it. There's the external stress, there is the internal stress, and there is the emotional stress. So there's three levels of it. And I'll come back to this in just a second. I want to scroll down. I want to show you this. This is that personal burden of stress. So you've got all three, that external stuff, the internal stress of the body not working well, something that's missing, lacking, not functioning to its ultimate potential, and the emotional stressors, which we'll get into in a second. When you add all these up, this is your total burden of stress. Okay, let's go back up and see what this means. So when we're talking about the difference between the three, think about this. There's external stress. Think of the outside pressure, things that are out of your own control. Right? We're going to go through what some of those examples might be. I'm sure you can think of three right off the bat. Go ahead and jot them down if you want. Let's talk about internal stress. This is stuff that isn't working well in the body, or can also be things that we are putting into our body, on our bodies, the stuff that's going inside from the outside world, or things that aren't working well, like digestion, for example. And then there's the third level of stress, emotional stress. I think some people may also think of this and some of these components as some of that external stress. Well, this is anything to do with emotions and with relationships in your life, your boss, your family, extended family, friends, those kinds of things. So let's go through some of these ideas. So I realize it's not super legible. We're going to start with external here on the left. So externally, these are some, do you have a hard work situation? There's the stress of paying off the mortgage or rent, financial pressures. Why did the cost of cell phones keep climbing? Are we in a recession, or is there price gouging going on because some of the people in charge are deciding that they like to make more money? I don't know why. I thought they had enough. Ask me how I feel about that. Food scarcity. Oh gosh, yeah, right. That is an external stressor. It's completely out of your control. Yeah. Our current news cycle. They'll have one feel-good segment at the end of the whole newscast. The rest of it is, oh, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world. Because that's the only way, if you stoke the fear response, you'll get people watching the news. It's also the truth of what's going on in the world. Yeah, there is the shadow self. Anyway, don't ask me what I think about that. Other things that you cannot control, things like the pesticides that they are applying to the park down the street or the trails down the street that are wafting up into your house. The electromagnetic frequency waves from your Wi-Fi, yours, people in your neighborhood, they just put up a huge tower at the end of my street about 2 years ago. I often wonder, I don't know if I love that hanging out at the top of my street. What is it doing? There's some really great studies to show that some of these EMF waves are actually disrupting and sending signals to your body to dump histamine, interestingly enough. Yeah, do you love that? The blue light emitting from our phones, our tablets, our computers, our screens. Air pollution. I cannot control air pollution except with my buying dollars of where I vote, I suppose. Smoke from wildfires. Oh, there's a few coming up in the interior BC right now. Pollution in our water. I can't control the water quality in my town. Nope. Chemicals in our cleaning products. Sometimes you cannot control. If you work in an environment, say like, I don't know, if you're in a metallurgical shop, there's a whole lot of fumes and things and chemicals that are used in your day-to-day work. Are you absorbing any of that? And is any of that making it into your system? That's part of what's coming from the outside world and adding to that external burden of stress. Do you work with hazardous materials? Maybe you paint or other noxious chemicals. My daughter wants to do cosmetology, and I just think, okay, there's a lot of chemicals in the hair industry and in the cosmetology and esthetician industry. Do you deal with a lot of that? Do you have mold in your environment? We have molds naturally occurring in some times of the year a little bit more than others. That's hard to control. Are there heavy metals in our foods naturally occurring because of soil, because of some of our farming practices? I cannot control that. I can control what I buy, I guess. The soils in which we grow our foods, do they have the nutrients we need? They do not. They, there's a really interesting statistic. Your grandmother, so 2 generations ago, to have her vitamin C for the day, she would eat 1 orange, and she'd get enough vitamin C from that orange. In our current day and age, and this is actually from a study 10 years ago, so I'm sure it's even more different now. In order to get the same amount of vitamin C your grandmother got, you have to eat 8 oranges. Who's going to sit and eat 8 oranges? A lot of that has to do with what we've done to our soils, our agricultural practices, how we pick fruit, how we harvest, the way we grow, the way we take care of the soils, or not. No. Fun. Great, Luca. I'm sad now. I know. The external stress, motor vehicle accidents. Sometimes they're completely out of your control. Oh, I've had one. Concussions or brain injury. Oh, I've had one. So those are external stressors that are adding to your external burden of stress. Now let's get into the internal burden of stress. How do you know in this middle column, things are not working well in the body or things that we consume? What is contributing to that internal burden of stress? Well, here are ways that it shows up. Can't digest well. If you can't digest well, you're having a hard time getting the nutrients from the foods you eat, because your body depends on you being able to take foods and break it down into nutrients. Can you do that job? If you can't, you're having a hard time getting the ingredients you need for your day-to-day body function. So digestion not working well adds to that burden of stress internally. Do you have any kind of low-grade inflammation in the body? That can be joint pain, it can be eczema, it can be swelling, it can be a chronic disease, it can be autoimmune condition, it can be a stealth infection. Everything in the rest of this is an indication that there is chronic low inflammation in the body, by the way. Stealth infections, some of those hidden infections, like Lyme disease. I would also add to this COVID, actually, long COVID is a long-term infection that they are now wondering if it's actually mast cell activation. Good times, yeah. Do you have things like Epstein-Barr virus or the kissing disease? You remember mono when we were kids? Yeah, that has the habit of hanging out. And these viral infections have a way of triggering the inflammatory response in the body, sort of on a low grade level. Bartonella is another one. Is your microbiome that collection of bacteria, fungi, yeasts, and parasites and viruses that are living in your gut? Are they not in a right balance? The proper term for this is dysbiosis. If you've got issues with your microbiome, because, I don't know, there's a lot that wipes it out. There's about 75 things that wipe it out. But if it's not working well, that is going to add to your burden of stress internally. Is your liver working slowly? So when I work with clients, to me, it's, after a lot of digging and many questions, it's clear to me who is a slow detoxifier. So if your detoxification systems can't keep up with the amount of stuff coming into your system, then your detoxification is slower than it needs to be. We need to support that detoxification at the liver level so that you can keep up with the amount coming in, because you want to move it out as soon as it's coming in. And if you can't move it out fast enough, it starts to pile up. And the pile up is what now contributes to your internal burden of stress. Constipation is one of those ways it shows up. So if you're pooping less than once a day, if it's hard to go poop, if it's poops as pellets, if you have to push and sort of bear down for it, oh, honey, we're doing something wrong. Constipation is really another indication that there is a high internal burden of stress. Slows down your body's taking your personal garbage to the curb is what happens when you're constipated. I never sweated as a kid. I would pride myself on the fact that I never had to wear deodorant. Oh, honey, you're supposed to stink. You're supposed to sweat. Oh, no. If you can't sweat, you're having a hard time taking the garbage to the curb. Most bodies are pretty good at bagging the garbage. Sometimes they're just a little bit slow at bagging the garbage, which is me. But you have to take the garbage to the curb. And if you can't sweat, you are having a hard time taking that bag of garbage to the curb. Maybe your elimination pathways are stagnant. So this is the pee, the poop, the sweat, the lymph. Those are certain, we call them elimination pathways. So if your detox pathways are not open and they're a bit slow, sluggish, stagnant, sludgy, that can be one of the ways that it adds to your internal burden of stress. We got to rev those up. I got lots of ways to do that. Is your immune system under fire? That is actually the kind of way that some of those chronic infections can contribute. That's going to add to your internal burden of stress. Do you have genetic mutations? That is usually one of the contributing factors to some of that slow detoxification. Do you have vagus nerve dysregulation? If your vagus nerve is having a hard time, that can be due to a lot of different things. Amongst them, for sure, concussions and motor vehicle accidents can trigger vagus nerve dysregulation. There's a lot of other stuff that can as well. There are some ways we can work on the tone of your vagus nerve. But if there's that dysregulation and it isn't working properly, that can add to your internal burden of stress. If your metabolism isn't working well, that can be adding to your burden of stress. If your thyroid isn't working well, it is both an indicator that you do have a high burden of stress, but metabolism itself really adds to your internal burden of stress. It slows everything down. Your thyroid, blood sugar balancing issues. If you are hangry mid-afternoon, if you skip meals, if you have done intermittent fasting for 2 years and it felt great, and now all of a sudden things are starting to pop up. Oh, interesting. If you have, what are other ways of blood sugar balancing? Your mood, your energy levels tank as the day goes on, or you have the seventh wind. That can be another way it shows up. There's a lot of different ways. Of course, type 2 diabetes is the sort of long-term way that this shows up. And it's not because you're eating candy. I mean, I'm sure candy may not be helping, but it's not, it's because there's a lot of internal stress going on. It's not because you did anything wrong. P.S. You have hormonal imbalances. They, in and of themselves, will contribute to driving that internal burden of stress up. If you have adrenal fatigue, adrenals are supposed to be your backup generator. Your thyroid's your main engine. Are you using the backup generator all the time? You're not supposed to. The more you do, now she's tired. Of course she is. I would be too. Do you have any nutrient deficiencies? Are there specific nutrients you're having a hard time getting from the foods you're eating? Are there a lot of pesticides on your foods? What kind of antibiotics are in the foods that you're consuming? That certainly can contribute to driving that internal burden of stress. Some of the medications we take, I am not anti-medication, but can we talk about what kind of impact they have and support those pieces as well? The medication helps us manage our days and be able to get through our days. Awesome. I want you to be participating in the world wholly, my friend. But can we talk about what kind of impacts those medications can have, and can we help mitigate some of that impact? Yeah, now we're talking. Chemicals in our personal care products. Anything you put on your skin gets absorbed into your body. What is that stuff? Toxins in our feminine care products. Right on. God, I'm sad. Yeah, there's lots. So that's the internal burden of stress. Lord knows there's way more. Emotional stress. Are you sad yet? Anything to do with emotions and relationships. So difficult relations with family members, with your partner, with any coworkers. Maybe you are someone who's looking after or caring for an elder. Are you caring for a convalescent family member or friend? Are you raising a child or children with special needs? Maybe they are neurodivergent. Do you perhaps live in an abusive environment, whether it's the home or it is at work? And if you are, you can send me a private message and I have some resources at the ready for you. We don't even need to have a conversation. I can just give you that handout because I think we can do all we want with food, but if you're not getting into a safe place for yourself, and that is outside of my scope, food's not going to do it. You need to get out of, or you need to change your environment first. And that's where calling in the big guns for therapy support is going to be important. So I have that at the ready for anybody who needs it. Could there be the emotional weight that comes with having a chronic disease? Look up the term spoonies. You'll know exactly what I mean when you read that. So there is something about having a chronic disease, especially one of those chronic conditions that like you can't tell from the outside, right? Like there's a very different story if you have, I was talking with my dad this weekend, and unfortunately my grandfather was alcoholic. And it is a disease, but you treat it very differently than you would another disease, like say cancer. Cancer, we understand, and there's empathy that comes in. Anyway, yeah, sorry, I shouldn't talk about family things. But anyway, the emotional weight that comes with having a chronic disease. In addition to this, people who have invisible illnesses, like chronic fatigue syndrome. And people think, oh, well, you're just lazy. Oh, well, of course you need to back out. Yeah. Do you want to know why I need to back out? Because I'm exhausted just keeping this facade of I'm doing okay. Oh my God, I need to go rest. That's what most people with invisible illnesses feel like. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I feel it too, for sure. The dependence on others. So we've talked a lot about where people are depending on you. That is part of that emotional burden of stress. I'm not saying get rid of these people, no, but it adds to that burden of stress for some. If you have a dependence on others for needs that you need met, that is also an emotional stressor. God, yeah. If you have a history of trauma, I will leave it at that. I think in our current day and age, most people will understand what trauma is. I do not want to open that Pandora's box. I know it's a big deal. But if there's a history for yourself or in your family lineage, it changes the biochemistry of the body. And that gets passed on into the next generation with things to do with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So if there happens to be a history of trauma in your family line, many people lived through the war. We have here in the land we call Canada, we talk about residential schools and the legacy of trauma that they have created. Every single Indigenous person in Canada, yeah. Trauma, I know in my family, there is a history of alcoholism. There is a granddaughter that was lost. There was a mother who died very young. I don't know how that doesn't start compounding and adding to that emotional burden of stress that now gets passed down into the genetics and the way that your genetics get expressed. Yeah, let's not underestimate how much that impacts. The emotional stressors too, if you feel a lot of pressure at work or at home to do things, to be something, there's the emotional well-being is not supported or it's lacking if we have a lack of support where we're supposed to do all of the things. Anywhere there is fear as a driving emotion, marketing, Luca Simmons talking to you. Yeah, I'm adding to your emotional burden of stress. And then I'll throw in a fart joke. But there's so many more. If there's anything you think we should add to this list, I would love to hear from you. What did we miss? So when we're talking about your personal burden of stress, that's really what I mean. This is a way more extensive dive than we will do in our Food as Medicine, a Thursday session later on this month. But this is really what it comes down to. What is that emotional stress you've got? What is your internal stress burden? And what is that external stress, things we can't necessarily change? And how can we help improve your ability to move through these? Because the goal is not to eradicate the stress. The goal is to build a solid foundation for you so that when these stressors come, you can better move through it. I think of it as the oak tree. How rooted are those roots? Do they go down deep? Can you sway with the rains and the winds when they come? And can you thrive when the sun is out? And can you lay dormant when it's time to rest in the season of rest? Yeah. So the goal with nutrition and the pieces I propose in the network for this month are putting in those big foundational pieces. Where do you start? Well, you'll start with incorporating some real foods and starting to build those pieces to the puzzle that are going to be giving you those nutrients you need, supporting, improving how you digest, and lots of different pieces. We can personalize this through those Tuesday weekly office hours for those who are in the network, by the way. So I have lots of posts on my social media accounts. So you can do a search with the hashtag burden of stress on Instagram for sure. Works exceptionally well on Instagram, even if you don't have an account, by the way. So where to start? This is where we begin. There's also a course called The Burden of Stress, which goes into much, much deeper detail. We are doing a live group of this in October 31st. We're starting into November. So there's lots of information there. So yeah, and then there's other pieces to get started. So that really, I wanted to highlight, how do you know you have a high burden of stress? And where am I going to get the pieces to address this burden of stress, Luca? Oh, let me show you the ways. So this is part of the admin stuff, all about your network subscription. Let's look at the live sessions. Every Tuesday, we've got the weekly office hours. It is an hour live. It is accessible only to those in the network. The replays are also available for watching for 1 week only. You got to watch it before we do the next one. You send me any questions you wish. Like, for example, this morning, I've already posted, hey, does anybody have any questions? Or what's the biggest thing you're working on health-wise this week? And that's going to inform the conversation in that weekly office hours. Food as medicine, those are those Thursday morning sessions at 7 a.m. So let's take a peek at what this is looking like this month. So it's at 7 a.m. on Thursday mornings. Can't join us live, catch the replay. Okay. So food as medicine, these are the topics that we're covering this month on the dates. They're 15 to 20 minutes in length every Thursday. And then the replays are down here. So that's another piece you can do to help address that burden of stress piece. The third, we're still in the live sessions here. We've got a live class this month, Going Paleo, and why this may be one of those pieces you can put in place for yourself. You can watch it live or you can catch the replay. All to do with this session is going to be available through this module. There's also pre-recorded content. So pre-recorded content, I want you to think of it as a streaming service, like Netflix, like Disney Plus, like whatever you have in your home. Apple TV, whatever. So the pantry overhaul is a way that we reduce your burden of stress. Yeah. We are doing, let's scroll right down this month's module. We did what is real food in September. So this month we're chasing flavor and playing with our food. This does a well-stocked pantry. So we're going to go over what good things to keep on hand, how to read labels, and what kinds of things will support your optimal health. And when you do this, you are reducing the burden of stress, that internal burden of stress. Oh, let's reduce inflammation via the pantry. Oh, it's a whole video you can watch, 33 minutes. And it's me. Fun times, handouts and recipes. So just to show you, we've got salmon croquettes as a recipe there for this month. So make sure you print that up if you're in the network. But here's a pantry staples. Oh gosh. Okay, so the pantry staples, oh, you can't see it. Can you see it? Yes, you can. Okay, good. So pantry staples list, it'll tell you the basics of what you want to stock your pantry with, and then pieces to think about if you want to do that. So that's another of those pre-recorded modules or on demand. The next one, we're doing a full class on inflammation. It's a 2-hour class almost with to-do pieces and why inflammation has that tie into that burden of stress and what exactly is inflammation and how do we reduce it. We have a scratch cooking class this month where we're going to be talking about salads. This is a fun one. This is just a cooking class. We're doing scratch cooking. It's all about real food and how to turn it into delicious things. So this month we're doing salads, DIY dressings, how to build salads, thinking textures and flavors. So lots of ideas through here. There's a little preamble. And here's the actual session where we're in the kitchen with me and my family. Yep. There's my kiddo Eliza. This is us a few years ago when we ran it again. So that's one of the courses you can access when you are in the network. And you have all month to catch these, you know. There's also written content. We've got recipes every month. So I'll show you what the recipes are this month. We've got creamy mushrooms, jalfrezi beef curry, spicy fish taco bowls, white chocolate turmeric tea, and chocolate avocado pudding. So you get to download and print below. There they are. Make sure you print these up. And then every 3 months, we have a brand new content for eating with the seasons. Right now we're in fall, so here we go. There's a video explaining why this is an important concept when you're trying to introduce the idea of real food, and real food is how we support reducing that burden of stress. We've got handouts and recipes. So there's a fall recipe bundle in here, so even more recipes. If you were here in September, you already have this. I hope you printed it, right? If you didn't, then go ahead and get that done. So those are all the different components in that Good Food Network for the month of October. Now, if you have any questions about this, I encourage you to get in touch. You can do so through the comments below, whether you're watching on Facebook or you're catching the replay on YouTube. I will get to your questions and be able to get you answers and clarity on what it is you're looking for. That gives you a little bit of a tour of that network. I love these updates that have happened in the last month. I should show you. I didn't even show this. Hang on. Let me go back to it. So in this, we have a group chat. So when you're in the Good Food Network, I wish there was a way to reduce this image. There is on my end of things, but not on yours. So through here, you know what, we'll go here. It's a bit easier to see. So here we've got a group chat going on. And this is me as the runner of the program. So every Monday morning I say, okay, what's your question for the weekly office hours this week? Here's the schedule for October. So I give updates on the network and some of the things we'll be talking about. Last week, we talked about the microbiome in the food as medicine session. So all of this is posted there as some of your reminders of what's coming up so that you can stay on top of it. Because I realize it feels overwhelming. But if you stick around for a couple of months, you'll start to get the hang of it. You can stay for just 1 month if you want. You can do whatever you wish as you go along. So use that chat function as well. You'll get lots of good content through there. That's also the spot where people can ask questions. So being as part of the network, part of the deal is you get to ask questions and clarification on things, regardless of what you're working on. And if I can work it into the weekly office hours, we'll do that. If it's something more direct, then I will encourage you to book in. So that's it. That's all for the orientation call this month. If you have any questions, pop them down below. Or you can also send me an email, lucasimmons@gmail.com. So I wish you a lovely month of October. May it be a delicious time. Right now is a brilliant time to be reducing that burden of stress because there is an inordinate amount and bounty of fresh food from your area. Start there. If you don't know where to start, you're like, I can't do the network, Luca. It's too much. Cool. Go to the markets. Start there. Go to a farmer's market. If you're new to Calgary, so I know I'm talking to people across Canada, but find a farmer's market near you. If you don't know which one to go to and you find yourself in Calgary, try Crossroads Market. Oh yeah, there's like the fancy Calgary farmers markets. Their prices are very high. Crossroads is for real people. Go check out Crossroads Market. I love them so much. They have really accessible price on foods. Of course, accessibility, if you don't have a vehicle, is a bit trickier. But if you're able to, I really encourage you to check out Crossroads or hit us in the comments below with where you are going to the market these days. And go find some good food. Try one new food this week. Try one new food that's new to you. Something you've never had before. My colleague and friend Tracy at Histamine Haven, she tried Guyland. She went to T&T markets last week and she picked up some low histamine foods and she's been trying them all week on our social media and well in her home predominantly. And she's been talking about it and it's so fun. Like it's an adventure. Here we are in 2022 and adventuring with your food is a very big possibility. So thanks for joining this week in the orientation call. I wish you a delightful month ahead. May it be delicious. And I hope to see you in the network. Salut et à bientôt.